Krishna. Sunday Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 12 these days, and we'll be covering verse number 14 today. So before we get started, let's chant the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakhaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Pradantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarini He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And since we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, I also chant the invocation verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are Mangalacharan, and we're requesting the mercy of all previous acharyas, of all devotees, including all the assembled devotees here, for your blessings and prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Okay, and now we will start the verse for today, which is 1.12.14. I'll share my screen. Oh yeah, share screen. Okay, so this is the verse for today. So I will read it 3 times and then request if any other devotees would like to read it. Hiranyam gam mahim graman hastyashwan riptairvaran Radhat swarnam cha viprebhya prajatirthe satirthavit Hiranyam gam mahim graman hastya ashwan nraptervaran Radhat swarnam cha viprebhya prajatirthe satirthavit Hiranyam gam mahim graman hastya ashwan nraptervaran Radhat swarnam cha viprebhya prajatirthe satirthavit. Would any devotees like to chant it also?
Yes, Mataji. Oh, somebody else is reading it.
Yeah, okay. Let her.
No, Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, first you can read, please, and then after you, I'll read. Okay.
Hiranyangam mahum gramon hastya aswin drupetirvaram Pradat Swayam Swayam cha Viprebhyo Prajatrite Titesa Tritavattu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hiranyam gam mahim graman hastyashvan rupatirvaran pradat swanam cha viprebhya prajatedhe sati dhavet. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hiranyam gam mahim graman hastyashvan ripatirvaran pradat swannam cha viprebhya prajatirthe satirthavet.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hiranyam gam mahim gramam hasta aswan nirpratirvaran pradat swanam sa viprabhya prajatat. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Josh Prabhu, do you also want to try?
I could try.
Okay.
Hiranyam gam mahim graman asteshvan pratir varan pradatsvanam cha prebhyaha praja tirsa tarifvat.
Great. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Līlā Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I will try.
Yes.
Hiranyam gatim matim graman asti asvan nipritir varan pradat swabam cha virebhyam prajatirthe sa pratrita vret.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, we'll move on to synonyms. Hiranyam, gold. Gam, cows. Mahim, land. Graman, villages. Hasti, elephants. Ashwan, horses. Nrapati, the king. Varan, rewards. Pradat, gave in charity. Su annam, good food grains. Cha, and. Viprebhya, unto the Brahmanas. Prajatirthe, on the occasion of giving in charity on the birthday of a son. Saha, he. Tirthavit, one who knows how, when, and where charity is to be given. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Upon the birth of a son, the king, who knew how, where, and when charity should be given, gave gold, land, villages, elephants, horses, and good food grains to the Brahmanas. Purport. Only the Brahmanas and sannyasis are authorized to accept charity from the householders. In all the different occasions of samskaras, especially during the time of birth, marriage, and death, wealth is distributed to the Brahmanas because the Brahmanas give the highest quality of service in regard to the prime necessity of humankind. The charity was substantial in the shape of gold, land, villages, horses, elephants, and food grains, with other materials for cooking complete foodstuff. The Brahmanas were not, therefore, poor in the actual sense of the term. On the contrary, because they possessed gold, land, villages, horses, elephants, and sufficient grains, they had nothing to earn for themselves. They would simply devote themselves to the well-being of the entire society. The word Tirthavit is significant because the king knew well where and when charity has to be given. Charity is never unproductive or blind. In the Shastras, charity was offered to persons who deserve to accept charity by dint of spiritual enlightenment. The so-called Daridra Narayan, a misconception of the Supreme Lord by unauthorized persons, is never to be found in the Shastras as the object of charity. Nor can a wretched poor man receive much munificent charity in the way of horses, elephants, land, and villages. The conclusion is that The intelligent men, or the Brahmanas, specifically engaged in the service of the Lord, were properly maintained without anxiety for the needs of the body, and the king and other householders gladly looked after all their comforts. It is enjoined in the Shastras that as long as a child is joined with the mother by the navel pipe, the child is considered to be of one body with the mother. But as soon as the pipe is cut and the child is separated from the mother, the purificatory process of Jata Karma is performed. The administrative demigods and past forefathers of the family come to see a newly born child, and such an occasion is specifically accepted as the proper time for distributing wealth to the right persons productively for the spiritual advancement of society. Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. So, the point which struck me in this translation and purport was about whom the charity should be given. Basically, how, where, and when charity should be given. That's, I think, one of the main points of this purport. So one is that whenever you have, there are various samskaras in person's life. There are 16 samskaras which are given, and on the important one, especially here in the purport, Prabhupada mentions, especially during the time of birth, marriage, and death, there are although 16 total samskaras, but especially at these times, charity should be given. So this is the proper time. And then who should the charity be given to? So the proper recipient is a Brahmana, and a Brahmana could be in any order. He could be a Brahmachari, he could very well be a Grihastha. In fact, most commonly it will be a Grihastha. And or to a sannyasi. So that's from the Varna ashram. So the Brahman Varna and the sannyasi ashram. And Brahman could be in any of the ashrams. So it's very important that the charity be given to people like these. Why? Because they are the proper recipients of this charity, because their whole purpose is to serve the mankind. And it is a duty of all other people to support such people, because they are highly spiritually enlightened, and they are also not only just using that enlightenment for themselves, but using their whole life to give it to others. So that is the reason. And also they are by design not engaged in any other occupation. So they are not doing anything else by design, because they are dedicating their full time, energy, everything to helping the entire society. So the society is also at the same time obligated to serve them by supporting them. And these are the times when it is enjoined in the Vedas and the Shastras that charity should be given, and should be given to the right recipient, which is these Brahmanas and sannyasis. So when charity should be given, where should it be given, and how it should be given. So all these are important. In our most foundational text, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17 has also tells us that charity, how a charity could be given in various modes. So in the mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance, how the charity is given. And the instruction for us is to give the charity in the mode of goodness. I mean, you can give it in the mode of passion and ignorance, but the instruction is to follow, to do it in the mode of goodness, and where again it is that it should be given to Brahmanas. I had pulled it up here. This is Bhagavad Gita 17.20. So the translation is, charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. There's a small purport, I'll read that as well. In the Vedic literature, charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. There is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Therefore, charity is recommended to be given at a place of pilgrimage and at lunar or solar eclipses, or at the end of the month, or to a qualified Brahmana or a Vaishnava devotee or in temples. Such charities should be given without any consideration of return. Charity to the poor is sometimes given out of compassion, but if a poor man is not worthy giving charity to, then there is no spiritual advancement. In other words, indiscriminate charity is not recommended in the Vedic literature. So this concept of Daridra Narayan and then is a misconception. It's a wrong term coined by some people, where because they say that Daridra is poor and Narayan is God, and they say poor, God is poor, and so you give, if you're giving to a poor person, you're giving it to God without uh, any consideration like what is the spiritual level of that poor person. So that's not something which is in the mode of goodness. You can definitely go and help poor people. It's not something prohibited, but do it with the correct mindset. Don't think that you are serving God by doing that. Yeah, so this Daridra Narayan. Similarly, there are some other very popular slogans which have been coined and which are kind of misleading the society. Manav Seva is Madhav Seva, work is worship. People have like totally come up with catchy slogans, but those do not have the Vedic foundation, Vedic backing. So the charity should be given to people who are spiritually advanced and who are distributing that spiritual advancement to the society in general. And even Yudhishthir Maharaj in this example, he is Dharmaraj. He knows the entire Dharma. He is also not doing it in an indiscriminate manner. He's not just giving it to anyone and everyone. He also selected the right recipients of his charity at this such an important point. So he chose Brahmanas and sannyasis to give this charity to. So he's setting an example. And even in various other places, when Lord Krishna was born, Vasudev Maharaj, while Krishna was just born and Vasudev Maharaj was in the prison, he wanted to give charity to the Brahmanas. So always the recipient is people like Brahmanas. And Brahmanas, again, we all know from the Bhagavad Gita foundation, it is not something just by birth, but person who is Brahmana by his qualities. There are a list of qualities mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, and simplicity, truthfulness. There's a long list of what a Brahmana is. And you can also think of it like a Vaishnava, Vaishnava or Brahmana. Those are the people who are qualified to take this kind of charity, because they are very detached. Even if you give them a heap of gold, they will not just get puffed up and now leave Vedic study of Vedic Shastras and just go into sense gratification. I collected some examples and which will illustrate that how detached a true Brahmana is, um, who even if you give him a lot of wealth, he's not going to get wavered from the path where he is going of helping the society to spiritually advance themselves. So we should also discriminate when we are giving the charity, who we are giving the charity to, just like how Yudhishthir Maharaj also did the discrimination. So it's a society's duty to support the Brahmanas, and it's because the society needs it. It's not like just out of just oh, I want to help the Brahmanas, although they are of no use to me. It's not that. You really, really need those Brahmanas to so that they can do upliftment of the society. So I have collected some examples. Again, I was listening to several lectures and doing some readings. So yeah, quite a few. So one example was, which one should I start with? Yeah, maybe the Vashisht Muni example. There is a Chanakya Pandit example. Let me start with Chanakya Pandit. So he was the Prime Minister of Chandragupta. He is a historical figure from Indian history. And he was a Pandit, he was a Brahmana. And he, even though he was a prime minister, which is the highest post after the king, he lived in a small hut, small place. I don't think it was a hut, but a very modest accommodation. Although he could have lived in a very opulent manner as well, but he was living like a brahmana, even though he had such a big post. So one example which I heard in lecture was very nice. So once Chanakya Pandit was working in his home, and somebody came to him for some help, and uh, thinking that he's a, knowing fully well that he is a prime minister and holds an important post in the king's ministry. So Chanakya Pandit asked him, so what brings you here? What kind of help do you need? And this person said, uh, are you here for some official work or some personal work? And the person said, I'm here for some personal work. So then Chanakya Pandit said, okay, then just wait. He was using a big lamp in his house, and he extinguished that big lamp, and then he lighted a small lamp. Uh, there were no electricity or bulbs at that time, so people would use lamps. So then he said, yeah, now we can talk. And this person said, okay, before I ask my question, can you explain me why you did this? Like, you extinguished the big lamp and now you're lighting this one. And Chanakya Pandit said that I was doing some official work at that time. So I was using the big lamp because the oil for that is supplied by the king. Uh, and since I'm now talking to you for a personal work, I don't need to use the official resources. So this is from my personal, uh, money that I have. So that was a very good example. If we start doing that, it'll be very impractical. But yeah, he was showing how Brahmana, how detached they are. Even though he had so much wealth at his disposal, he could have lived in a big palace with servants, but he was doing, and he was even, using whatever is for the king's service. He can use a big lamp, but for his own thing, that's all. So that's how a detached Brahmana should be. For in this particular example, it comes out. Then there's example which I heard in a lecture about Vasishtha Muni. So he had a cow who was a wish-fulfilling cow, and I read it up on Veda base. So the name of the cow was Sabala, and Vasishtha Muni had that cow, and he used to again live in an ashram, not in a palace. He had a wish-fulfilling cow, and that cow could give anything. In fact, he would use that cow's help in providing all the necessary items for the yagyas that he would do. And the cow could just produce anything. And the example given there was once Vishwamitra Muni, who was not a Muni at that time, he was a king. Vishwamitra was a king, and he happened to come to that forest where Vasishtha Muni's ashram was there, and he came with a huge army of his Sainik, which is soldiers. And then Vishwamitra, Vasishtha Muni, when he met Vishwamitra, he offered him that I would like to offer you a feast. I would like to offer you something to eat. Not. He first gave him some fruits and water, but then he said, I really want to serve you. Vishwamitra said, no, don't worry. He understood, it's a sage living in a cottage. How can he take care of such a big army which has come along with me, and even to take care of? He said, no, I'm good with the fruits and water you have given me. Vasishtha Muni insisted, no, please stay. And then he requested his wish-fulfilling cow, Sabala, to make the arrangements. And lo and behold, there was like a huge, big feast for millions of soldiers, and everyone was very nicely fed and totally satisfied. She produced all kinds of good food stuff and everything which was needed. And Vishwamitra was surprised. Oh, really? Uh, I mean, this is what he has. And then he, out of his haughty, he was a Kshatriya, and at that time, pride entered his heart, and he said, I'm a king. I request, I not request, you give this cow to me. I'm the administrator of this area, and you give this to me. this cow to me. But Vashisht Muni said, no, I cannot give this cow to you. And again, this was not because he was attached to the cow, but the cow was helping him do his duty, which was doing all these sacrifices for the welfare of the society. He was not using that cow for doing sense gratification, having the opulent feast every day for himself. He made the opulent feast, requested the cow to give the opulent feast to serve people who had visited, but not. So his idea was not to use the cow for his personal things. Otherwise, he could have lived in a palace, asked the cow to produce a lot of servants, and who would fetch the water for him, who would do this and that. But that was his mood. So he said no. But Vishwamitra was adamant. He got angry, and by force they were trying to take the cow away. And Vashishta Muni, although he was a very powerful sage. He was a Rajarishi and extremely powerful. He could have just stopped by his own power, but um, he he thought that a Brahmana is forgiving. So that's a nature, like among all those qualities of Brahmanas, being forgiveful, or being able to forgive others even when they are doing a big wrong to you, is a quality of a Brahmana. Having being Samadarshi and so on. So he said, okay, it's not that okay now I'll turn the button on, but he by nature he was like that. And he said, okay, fine, whatever you want to do. I mean, this is not what I would like you to do, but I forgive you for whatever you are doing right now. But that cow was, she came and asked Vashishtha Muni, not came, but like she was, while she was being taken away, why are you letting me go? And have I not served you properly? Is that the reason you are letting me go? So she had this conversation with Vashisht Muni, and he said, no, 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 you have served me very well. Uh, but this king wants you. And then the cow said that you just, if you want me to say, just say stop, and then I will do the needful. So if I have not offended you, and if I can continue to serve you, just say stop, and then I'll do the needful. So then Vashisht Muni said stop, and then since the uh, cow would do when Vashisht Muni would ask her to do something. So once he said stop, then she manifested lots of soldiers from her body, who then went and killed the other soldiers who were trying to take her away. And in that way, Vishwamitra was defeated. And that's another story, like how Vishwamitra then went on a trip. He even though he was a king, then he wanted to become a Brahmana so that he could have these powers. So with a wrong intention, Vishwamitra, and there's a long story, like with multiple incidents. But the point for this particular verse for today was in this one, that Vishwamitra Muni, even when the cow was being taken away, he didn't ask. And his point was that he was not using the cow for his own personal sense gratification. He had like the biggest thing in the world. It's like the Chintamani. Even Sanatan Goswami had something like that. There is a very popular story where someone came to know that Sanatan Goswami has a wish fulfilling stone, Chintamani, and yeah, but he was just keeping it in a trash can. So for him, he wanted to live in a detached manner and serve the society, and not get attached to all these objects which could be produced by that stone. So those are the kind of Brahmanas which are being talked about. Not just Brahmanas by birth, but Brahmanas who have this quality, who can uplift the society through their example. Not just merely saying some words, memorize some shlokas and utter them out, but really who are living their life as a Brahmana. I was listening to one lecture recently. There was an interview of Radheshyam Prabhu by Amog Leela Prabhu. So you can Google it, and it's a very interesting one. Amog Leela Prabhuji is interviewing him, Radheshyam Prabhu, and he was sharing from his life story. So couple of things. When Radheshyam Prabhuji was very young, he was from his childhood, he was very interested to know about God. So once there was there were quite a few brahmanas who came to their house because his father was a very pious person. He was born in a brahmana family who were actually practicing brahmanas, not by name. And then they were doing some samskar at his house or some puja. And then they were reciting a lot of Vedic hymns, mantras. At the end of that, Radheshyam Prabhuji, a small child, asked them very deep questions. What happens after death? Very philosophical questions. Why are we here? And uh, I don't remember the exact questions, but very deep philosophical questions. But those brahmanas said, "Oh, we just know the Vedic mantras. We have just memorized those, how to chant these mantras. We don't know answers to all these questions." For that, so those brahmanas were at least honest, and they shared that they have not understood it that well. They were using it as a profession, doing this brahminical work, going and doing pujas at various homes. We see that all around us, in Kali Yuga. Many brahmanas, one, they call themselves brahmanas by birth, and then whoever takes it up, they use it just like in any other profession, not really dedicate their lives uh, to uplift the society. First uplift themselves and then help uplift the society. um, so Prabhuji was then not satisfied, and then he was sharing his long journey. He you went to so many places to find answers, and then finally when he was doing his MTech, that's when he came in contact with the devotees of ISKCON, and then he was like just totally mesmerized, and he got answers to a lot of questions that he was looking for all the while he was growing up. So that was one, like brahmanas whom he met in his childhood, and then he was also mentioning one example when before his MTech he was doing his bachelor's. And his father, that was the first time he was out of his house, from a village to a big city, Chennai. And his father uh, found a place where there were two other brahmana boys who were also studying, and he arranged Radheshyam Prabhu's accommodation with those two brahmana boys. And those two brahmana boys turned out to be just brahmanas by birth. Their qualities were totally Shudra. They were um, doing all the smoking, drinking alcohol, reading porn literature and whatnot, like all kinds of breaking the four regulative principles left, right, and center. And Radheshyam Prabhu had to wanted to just run away from there, but because he was stuck due to the finances, the advance that was given, he had to tolerate for 1 full year, and then he totally made up his mind that he will make sure next time, whenever he finds some place to stay, he will make sure that his company is sattvic by nature, not just by birth. And he was mentioning later in his master's, or in his later years of education, he found such people who were interested, just like him. And that's how, with good association, he was seeking out that kind of good association. It was not by chance. He actively went out and looked for good association, and that was the one thing that he was, trying to tell us through that uh, try to go and seek out good association. It may not just come and fall in your lap, but once you have this knowledge, try and make sure that you keep good association. It really, really helps you. So yeah, that was from some tidbits from Radheshyam Prabhuji's interview that I recently heard. So Brahmanas should be displaying the Brahman quality, not just yeah, not just pretenders, but really have those qualities. There were some more examples which were there. One was like the right time to give charity. So in the pastime of Bali Maharaj and Vamandev, when Vamandev came, he was shining like sun, and Bali Maharaj, when he saw this young Brahmana, he was thinking, oh, where has sun come from? Like he was very fascinated to see this young boy, and he felt, yeah, something is special about him. And then the time was perfect at that time to give charity. So Bali Maharaj wanted to give charity. So that episode gave the example that charity should be given at the right time. I'll not go into the details, but yeah, again, giving to a Brahmana. Bali Maharaj was also giving it to a Brahmana. And then Parashuram, when Lord Parashuram, when he killed the Kshatriya kings 21 times, but at the end of that, he gave the earth to Kashyap Muni. He didn't keep it for himself, but he gave it to a Brahmana to take care. And there was example given of Lord Ram when he came back to Ayodhya. He gave everything to Brahmanas first, and then the Brahmanas gave it back to the king that you please take care of the kingdom. But the point was that Lord Ram had full faith in Brahmanas, that if you give it to Brahmanas, they will take the best care of the kingdom. So by example, they were showing that how much trust they have in Brahmanas to give them the highest thing. And then the final example, actually there are some more, but yeah. The final example is always, our dear most Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So the Brahmanas, they guide the society in the right way, and just one Brahmana is enough. If you give the charity to a right person, a right Brahmana, wonders can be done. And one of the prime examples of our time and age is Srila Prabhupada. They are the really hope for the society. How one person can change the world. A person who was so poor, so to say, in material terms, like when Srila Prabhupada came to America at an advanced age with just 40 rupees and books, some books in a trunk. He it was seemingly impossible task that he could do what he did finally. But Lord Krishna was always with him, and slowly and steadily he started started getting that dān. Dān is the charity. That, and using that charity which he got from so many avenues, he transformed the world. He didn't keep one paisa for himself. We all know his story, how he was so detached. He got millions of dollars later, and then but everything he used it for Krishna's service. In fact, Srila Prabhupada used to say that first Krishna tested me by taking away everything from me. Srila Prabhupada was running a very good business, and everything went down south. So Prabhupada said that Krishna tested by first taking away everything from me, and then Krishna tested me again by giving me everything. And Srila Prabhupada passed both those tests. He was not wavered when everything was taken away from him, and he was not wavered in his devotional service when a lot of opulence was given to him. So that's the nature of a true Brahmana. He does not get affected, does not get puffed up by material riches which he receives in charity, but he uses it in the service of the Lord. And of course, they use it for their daily maintenance. And if a Brahmana is married, has wife, kids, he will use those funds which we give in charity to maintain the livelihood, but not in a lavish way. So we society, the members of the society who are not living that kind of lifestyle, Brahmanas live a very regulated lifestyle, and they are fully in the mode of doing paropkar. So it, as a we should be grateful that we have access. There are very few such Brahmanas, but if we know of any such Brahmana, it is our duty to support them. It is our duty to make sure that those Brahmanas are not forced to take up some other occupation so that they can meet the needs of their family members. Because if they take up some other occupation, not a Brahmana occupation, then it is our loss, because now their full, say, 8 hours of their life, they are going to some office, which is totally, in a very different direction, and they are forced to, if they are forced to spend their time to do that so that they can um, take care of the basic necessities of their life, then it's a loss for them, and it's a bigger loss for the society. So we, the society, also have this. It is for our benefit. We should try to see if there are brahmanas like this who are engaged. We should try to support them in whatever way we can in our capacity. Yeah. So that was one thing which I learned. There are quite a few other notes. What's the time that yeah, maybe a few more minutes I can share. Um, yeah, and so like how I was saying that the society has this. It is upon us. It is our duty to support them, and also the brahmanas. It is their duty to really live the life of a brahmana, uphold the brahmanical qualities, and not get swayed, or because if one example comes out that this sadhu was actually involved in some nefarious activities or was not really detached, he was using the funds which we gave in charity for his personal sense gratification, then those examples put a dent in the faith of the society in general, in sadhus and in brahmanas. So it is a duty of those brahmanas also to live the proper brahmanical life and not be too attached and live a simple life. So those that's duty of those brahmanas. But majority is people like us who are not living the proper brahmanical lifestyle, and we should try to support that. And in the varnashram system, which was a dream of Srila Prabhupada, we can have some, maybe someday we can have a society where brahmanas are just living brahmana lifestyle. People are supporting them, and then they are guiding the society to do the upliftment. Uh, Here in this purport, there was a mention of the samskara, jata samskara. But these days, so there are 16 samskaras, but these days, most of the samskaras have just become a formality. People just do it for namesake, but not really believe in them. Oh, okay, I have heard of this. Maybe it is done in my family tradition. Okay, so just for the namesake, they do it without really believing in that. But and also at the same time, we don't even have very qualified brahmanas who can do perform those kind of samskaras. So we are in a very bad situation. We are in Kali Yuga. We don't have good brahmanas, and most of the people are mandabuddhi. They have lost faith in Vedic scriptures. So it's a bad situation that we are in. But ideally, those samskaras are very important, right from the time the child comes in the womb and all the way from Garbhadhan samskar to the Antyeshti, which is the final rites when you pass away. So there are a lot of samskaras where the uh, brahmanas can do some can do that samskar, and then we give charity to those brahmanas. Instead of just doing it like a formality. Many people do Upanayan as a formality. They do various things just, and the main focus is, eating after that, or just doing it like a function, not focused on the meaning behind that. Okay. Yeah, there were some more examples like how Nanda Maharaj said when celebrated Nandotsav, which is birth of Lord Krishna, by giving charity to brahmanas. And Vasudev Maharaj, I already touched upon that. Since Vasudev Maharaj was in the prison and he could not actually give the cows, in his mind he meditated and gave so many cows in charity. So that was mentioned in Krishna book. So giving charity and giving charity at the right time when the child was born, and giving the charity to the right recipient were both exemplified in those situations. There was one example. Oh yeah, this one. I'll end with this. In another lecture, I heard this. I believe this happened in the temple of Lord Ranganath in South India. Uh, there was once a king who was very proud, uh, and he wanted to give charity. So he wanted to donate a big amount of gold, uh, as much gold as the weight of an elephant. So it was a pretty big, substantial amount of gold he wanted to donate as charity. But Lord Ranganath, which is Lord Vishnu, knew what is there in the heart of this king. And he did not like that and he didn't want to accept. So the Lord came in the dream of the priest and told him, I don't want this charity. So the king gave a huge heap of gold, and the priest said, no, we cannot take it. And they just left the gold outside the temple. Okay. And those brahmanas were so detached and so pure that gold kept lying there for days at a stretch, and nobody took. Just imagine like a huge uh, hill of gold, and nobody's picking up anything from there, although they are, living a modest lifestyle, a brahminical lifestyle. So they were not attached. And so this example was nice. No brahmana took, and that exemplified how detached those brahmanas were. They were pure brahmanas serving Lord Rangnath with their full heart. So that's how a brahmana is. Mm. And for this particular case, about Parikshit Maharaj, all the samskaras were done for him by his mother while he was in the womb of his mother. So this Jat samskara was mentioned in the verse, but also it's mentioned that all the samskaras were done for him. Okay, I think I have covered most of the points. Oh yeah, there was one last thing, Līlā. So we saw that when there are important occasions in one's life, you should give charity. So I'm trying to focus on the verse give instead of take. These days, like when we celebrate birthdays, it's more about what gift will I get. It's all about taking the mentality. Uh, but in reality, when you're celebrating some event, the focus is that you should be giving. When you're celebrating some event, when you're having some samskara done, you are the one who is the giver, not the taker. Charity should be given. That was one thing. Okay, I think I'm done sharing most of the points that I had. We are towards the end. If anybody has any correction, please let me know, or anything you want to share. If you have anything in mind, any examples or anything, please feel free to share. Thank you so much, devotees.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Very wonderful explanations, Mataji. Thank you so much for all the examples you have given, and your explanations are so nice to hear. I'm happy. I thoroughly relished, Mataji. Thank you so much. And I have a small question. Here, I mean, where and when, right? The charity in the translation is mentioning upon the birth of a son, the king who knew how, where, and when charity should be given. So you have nicely explained all these things, but I'm not able to understand. Is there any specific place? Where means how do we understand, Mataji? Do we need to give it in a pilgrimage kind of thing, or anywhere? Or how do we understand where?
Yeah, I think it was given in the place of pilgrimage. It should be given. But even here, like if we are not in a place of pilgrimage, but if we are giving to a right person, it is fine. It's not that we have to only travel to the place of pilgrimage to give it. Where was it? It was there in this purport, or maybe in the Bhagavad Gita purport.
Where
Yeah,
it is?
Bhagavad Gita 17.20, it was mentioned.
Oh.
Let's share it again.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, therefore charity is recommended to be given at a place of pilgrimage. So,
yeah.
So it's a whenever we go to a place of pilgrimage, we should give charity.
Mhm.
But it's not that that is the only place we should give charity. I mean, that's my understanding, Mataji.
Okay. Okay, Mataji. Thank you. So my understanding is now, see these things, whatever is mentioned in the purport, like, it's very hard to get austere brahmanas and all that, right? Who are very well qualified to give charities and all that. And also you mentioned about 16 samskaras and all that. Nobody is actually able to do that. So when we start devotional service, is it okay to do it in a devotional way? How, we go to temple and just to do in front of Nitya Sachinandana or something like that, the different samskaras, like, name giving ceremony, Aksharabhyasa or something like that, when
Yeah.
devotees.
Yeah, it was in fact mentioned, Mataji, to give it in the temple. I think in this purport only or somewhere.
Do the samskaras, like, Jata Karma, I mean, previous verse is name giving ceremony or something like that. Because, in a proper way, like an authenticated way, how, the previous ages people were doing it. Yeah. Same verse, right? Bhagavad Gita, same verse.
Yeah, 17.20, Mataji, in temples, yeah, place of pilgrimage or in temples, which we have access to, thankfully, so far. That we have temples and proper temples where,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm talking about the samskara. So this is talking about the charity should be given, but usually how functions, I mean, like, because samskaras should be performed for the purificatory processes, but we don't have, that kind of facility nowadays, because we don't see that kind of highly qualified brahmanas. But is it okay to do it in the temple, like, these small functions usually, when the child is born, to bring them to the temple and place it in front of the deities and doing on the authority of the the Vaishnava devotees, pujaris whom we have and all that, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, yeah, you're asking it as a question, but I know that you know this, and yeah, that's the
I've seen in different
that's
temples
how we.
that, some different temples have been doing that. Bringing the child over there and during long back, actually, we have done with Rumpad Swami, my spiritual master, doing that, writing and the name on the rice, Aksharabhyasa it is called, or something like that. We were doing that, but it is now actually, I have seen it in some different temples also, but devotees can do that, right? Whoever is started Krishna consciousness, without not worrying about other things, they can do it in the temple, right? Come and doing Aksharabhyasa, when saintly persons come, or with the pujaris, everything they can do in the temple, right? Probably Mataji in a Vaishnava way, right? So
Yes, Mataji. I'm not sure about this Jata Karma because that's like right after the child is born. Probably
and
that cannot be done in the temple. It has to be done where the child is born.
Mhm.
It's right after the cord is cut for the child from the mother.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. But yeah, Akshara Abhyas, as you're mentioning, and Simantanayanan, like when the mother is carrying the child and we do some samskara for the child while he's in the womb, he or she is in the womb. Yeah, those can be done very well in the temple, Mataji, with Vaishnava devotees, as who are the brahmanas of this verse, qualified person.
So in case of Jatakarma, Mataji, name Jatakarma is, my understanding is name giving ceremony, right? That is what?
Nahi, Mataji, it didn't say like that. Jata Karma is the name, because in fact for Krishna, Garga Muni came later and gave the names to the boys. The Namkaran happened later. But this one was done like right after they're born. Jata Karma is what I understood was when the cord is cut. So it's like very soon, right after birth,
Yeah.
umbilical cord is cut.
Okay.
That time this samskara is done.
Okay, Mataji. Because I was thinking nowadays in the present age, how do they do actually, right? Without having proper brahmanas, right brahmanas. So I was just
Yeah,
thinking.
it's very hard for this age, Mataji. We are in an unfortunate situation. And all the 16, maybe we cannot do it. Even here, Prabhupada also, he picked up, especially during the time of birth, marriage, and death. At least these three we should do. So out of 16, he also picked up these three. So time of birth, marriage and death, at least on these samskaras, charity should be given. And then how much ever we can, like you mentioned, akshara abhyas or some other things which we can take and do those samskaras.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Is there anything else any other devotees would like to share?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mataji, because of you narrated very well about Brahmanas and everything. Yeah, who is deserve to take the charities and who is a giver and giver. That is very important nowadays. And at least what you say, that is we encourage, that means temple, everybody encouraged to do the jata karma, that Seemantam and that Namakarana. That is encouragement is important nowadays. Maybe in my idea, maybe good child can take birth.
Yes.
Yeah, because of that, all people blessings and place of that Seemantam will do. That is my idea, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Especially for the Seemantam, I was reading up recently for this particular samskara.
Yeah.
So that the place, the right place to do that samskara was mentioned as the place where the couple lives. And so that is one particular thing which stood out. I was reading the samskaras book because somebody wanted to get this thing done, and the ideal place there mentioned is where those people live, not the temple. But we also assume that people who are devotees will have a temple in their home, and they will have Sri Vigraha in their
that
home.
also,
So that way
is
it becomes
okay.
a temple. Yeah.
Yeah. If not possible, I am saying like that.
Yeah.
Separate temple premises, separate is there and everything is there. Like that is some activities are going on that are there. I am saying that. And but everybody likes to do that ceremonies in their house also. Blessings are important for that lady. I think with the circumstances and the atmosphere is creation is very good to her. That is the main. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, I just checked, Mataji. I just want to add, Jataka is actually chanting, auspicious hymns, not actually naming ceremony. Chanting auspicious hymns when the child is born and making the horoscope, Jatakam of the child. So last week only I shared totally forgotten. So it was related to the last week's verse, basically. So I was confusing with that, right? So name giving ceremony with Jata Karma, but as you mentioned, Mataji, it's not name giving ceremony, but it's chanting, auspicious hymns when the child is born, just like.
Yeah, Mataji, that is very good. Yeah, that is, chanting is very important. One child is hearing and grasping that chanting also, maybe like Abhimanyu. Yeah, that is very important. What you say, that is good. Yeah. Function, that is function, not ceremony, function. Yeah. I may be wrong.
No, Mataji.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Radhakunda Mataji, I think that making the horoscope chart, right? Like, yeah, that is also done.
Jatakam means usually it's a Telugu word also. Jatakarma means making a horoscope by wonderful, like Srila Prabhupada, the case also, it was made by a very wonderful professional, right? Everything was predicted, but not everybody could do that. Right? Only who are qualified. But nice sharings, Mataji, today. All the examples you have given. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I think it's 9:06, so maybe we can stop the call. Thank you all the devotees who are here. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Krupa
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaः.
Jai. Dāmodar Līlā Mataji ki jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Krishna.
Krishna.